President-elect Trump supporting Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy after the two backed H-1B visas for foreign workers, telling the New York Post, quote, "I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why we have them. I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. I've used it many times. It's a great program." Our next guest, though, is not sold on Trump's claims. Joining us now is American Majority founder and CEO Ned Ryun. Wow, a lot of confusion around this because, as you know, Ned, first of all, welcome and Happy New Year. As you know, Donald Trump had a lot of criticisms for this program and said there were a lot of abuses of it. Elon Musk has now come out, Vivek Ramaswamy, and now Donald Trump told the New York Post this. So what is your take?
Well, my take is the entire conversation started around increasing the number of H-1B visas, which was precisely the wrong place to start a conversation in expanding what is a broken and abused system. And I think a lot of people can acknowledge the H-1B visa system is broken. It's been abused. Elon posted some things last night that I think would be a nice starting point, that you have to significantly raise the minimum salary and then add an annual cost to these H-1B visas to maintain them. I think we have to get to the point, Rachel, where we make it prohibitively expensive to have an H-1B visa to really focus on having those truly exceptional people come in and use them. But Rachel, I think the thing has to be the thing that has to be discussed is the fundamental issues around this whole entire debate. Is that America fundamentally is not an economic zone. We're not some global storefront. Americans should not be treated as second-class citizens in their own country because federal policy allows billion-dollar corporations to hire foreign workers at under-market wages instead of paying American workers full wages. So if we can start to frame the conversation that way and understand the system is broken, it needs to be reformed, and the American people should actually be prioritized in all things, that really is the message of America first.
Yeah, and that's always been Donald Trump's message, which is, I think, why some people are a little confused by that statement.
Well, I think probably what's truly indicative of where Donald Trump's second term will go on this is the fact that you have Stephen Miller in the White House, and he will be dealing with some of these issues like the H-1B visas. I think Stephen Miller has made it very clear how he feels about H-1B visas. The system has been abused. There is need for reform. And I think you actually, the starting point in the conversation with H-1B visas is how do you actually reduce the number to truly bring in those that are exceptional and not let it be abused. So I feel pretty confident that Stephen Miller and his reform ideas on H-1B visas will truly be what will happen in the second term.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would think it was a good idea to not allow another Elon Musk into the country. We obviously want the brightest people to come here.
Truly exceptional.
Truly exceptional people, of course. But we have, thousands of people doing coding jobs. And I know a lot of Americans who would love for their sons and daughters to have those jobs.
I think one of the things that's been insinuated in this debate is that somehow Americans are mediocre. I would firmly push back on that. I think our school system has seriously not served the American people well. It has become indoctrination centers at all levels. Instead of emphasizing STEM, those things will actually benefit us in regards to these high-tech jobs. So I think it's not mediocrity. I think we've been abused by our school system, and there's a significant need for reform. They should not be indoctrination centers. We should actually be emphasizing these things that will actually help us in these sectors.
Yeah, absolutely. And importing workers to fill these jobs is not going to do anything to fix the system. It's going to hide this. It's going to prevent us from dealing with the root cause of it. Absolutely. And I will add this too, Ned. It is our school system. You're absolutely right about that. It has failed our students, and hopefully Donald Trump will do something through the education department to start fixing that, school choice, all that. But there is a family component of this as well, and a lot of children have been failed at home, in broken homes. And, when you hear Vivek Ramaswamy talk about sort of the cultural values that are coming, say, from, East Indian American families and so forth, those are families that are intact. Those are families that are focused. I'll give you the last word on that.
Well, I do think that we need to challenge the generations behind us, our children and those behind them, to actually to set goals to exceed what they think that is possible. So I think we have kind of had that we've set low expectations. I think we need to encourage our younger people to actually set higher goals, and I think we need to reform the school system So I think there's a whole host of things, but you're right. When we have things like H-1B visa that has been abused, it's a Band-Aid over the problem. It is not the real solution.
Yeah, I love that we're having this debate. It's important.
I do
Ned
too,
Ryun,
actually.
Yeah, and I'm glad we had you on. Thank you, Ned.
Thanks, Rachel.
You got it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.